gentlemen, what we would like to do now, because the minutes really are dwindling down, is to give each of you a minute or so to summarize some of the key takeaways you have for the audience. And I'd like to do it in the order in which you spoke. So, Ian Robertson, if you would just take a minute to offer some final thoughts.
So my final thought would be to think about proxy access in the context of the evolution of ownership and shareholder engagement, these ownership rights, over 100, 150 years really since the modern corporation has come into being, and that it's still in a process of evolution, the sort of balance between corporate power and owners' power, shareholders' power. To think about the era that we're in, this sort of neoliberal era, which is likely winding down. We've had 30 plus years of this, and it can take many years. Between the golden era after World War II and the sort of neoliberal era was a 10 to 15 year transition period, and that inevitably the world changes in this sort of relationship to corporations and how governments and regulators and owners relate to corporations changes. And second, to think of, in particular, institutions like pension plans, which are large owners, which are perpetual owners. They really have a perpetual time horizon. And third, that they own everything. They sort of own the index. And so they're very thoughtful in the way that they engage. They don't want to do anything to harm the value of companies. They're going to take a long-term value perspective. And so I think their perspective needs to be considered carefully as we consider proxy access.
Thank you, Ian Robertson. Corey Kent, some key takeaways?
So I think listeners should consider that proxy access is a governance policy that is coming to Canada from south of the border. The early adopters will be the larger companies in Canada, and it will trickle down. So I expect smaller issuers to take more of a wait-and-see approach. It's an opportunity for companies to engage with shareholders and open the doors to shareholders and not treat it as a defensive tactic. And when considering a proxy access policy, have a look at what's happening in the U.S. for the current trends and the direction that the proxy access policies are going in the U.S., both for the protection of the company and for the protection of the shareholders.